speak must register and submit the registration slip to the zoning administrator at this time. Following the public hearing, we will conduct our monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. The applicant and the town board will be sent a copy of tonight's decisions. Any other person wishing to receive a copy of a decision can sign the sheet at the front of the room. Those of you who wish immediate knowledge of the outcome of these proceedings may call the county zoning office tomorrow morning. The procedure we will follow for hearing each application is, after the application is read, the applicant, their agent, or representative will be asked to present their application, followed by any questions or comments from the committee. Then all correspondence will be read. Then others in favor will have a chance to speak. Anyone objecting will then have a chance to speak. I will then ask for a summary of the comments of the field observations and any staff comments. Finally, the applicant will be allowed a chance for a short rebuttal if they wish. Anyone wishing to speak should use the microphone at the front of the room, state their name, and direct their comments to the committee. Because of the number of applicants tonight, I'm asking that all testimony be kept brief and to the point. The applicant will have 5 minutes to present information on their application, other than questions from the committee. Anyone else wishing to speak should limit their testimony to 3 minutes, and any rebuttal by the applicant will also be limited to 3 minutes. If you are testifying as a nearby landowner, please tell us where your property is located relative to the subject property. Tonight's hearing will be recorded, and the recordings will become part of the record. Comments that are based on hearsay or secondhand information, as well as slanderous or prejudicial remarks, will be ruled out of order. The committee has looked at all the properties, and the record will reflect these observations. Any person affected by an administrative decision of this committee has 30 days from the filing of tonight's decision to file an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Waushara County Circuit Court. Information on appeals is available from the Clerk of Court's office and qualified legal counsel. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commenced prior to the expiration of this 30-day period. And I'll introduce the rest of the committee. To my left are Larry Tim, Mark Schumacher, John Benz, George Wilson, Ruth Zowski, Corp Counsel, and to my right is Terry Dopp-Halkstedt, Zoning Administrator. My name is Roger Wagner. First variance to be considered tonight, Cloud One, Green Bay, Wisconsin. Town of Springwater landowner has made an application for variance in accordance with section 58-236, paragraph B, 20, paragraph E of the Waushara County Zoning Code to place a 250-foot self-supported wireless communication tower coming to within 120 feet of the northerly 170 feet, of the westerly 60 feet, and of the southerly side lot lines, required setback of no less than 75% of the total height of the tower, or 187.5 feet, in the AG General Agricultural Zone. Location, an approximate 3-acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 3550, being part of the Northwest 1 quarter, the Northeast 1 quarter, Section 31, Town of Springwater, County Road GH. Is the applicant present? Come forward, please.
Hi, my name is Ray Buildings. I'm with Bug Tussle Cloud One.
I need to get Could you spell that for the secretary, please?
Sure, Ray, R-A-Y, Buildings, B-I-L-D-I-N-G-S.
Thank you.
We're here for a variance with the setback issue that you had stated, and we had provided a site drawing showing the 75% offset, and we also showed the with a fall letter provided by the tower manufacturer of a 125 foot, which is actually half the height of the tower fall radius. I guess we're requesting a variance in regards to working with the Township of Springwater, the position of the tower, we've obviously extended the property lines to the south and the west, and the tower position was placed in regards to, we had a wetland line issue that required that location, and working with the township, there was a concern about placing a tower in that spot so that they could possibly do some further expansion with their town hall at some point. I guess with that said, I don't know if there's any specific questions or.
We've got some general questions just for the record then. Has there been a recent survey out there?
No, we have not done a survey on the property, but we would do that with contingent on tonight's outcome.
Okay, the stakes haven't been located or anything then?
No, the property lines have not been marked.
Okay.
No.
Have you talked to the neighboring landowners?
I've approached the property that has been in question, but have not received comment back.
Okay. And total finished height of the tower will be what?
250 feet.
Okay, all self-supporting.
It is a self-support lighted structure, yes.
Any other improvements on the site at this time? Have some buildings there?
Inside the compound, the tower would be fenced in with a fenced-in compound. There would be space for leasing for other carriers for that option. But structures, yeah, there could be small 10 by 12 enclosed units within the compound of that 50-foot lease space.
And there'll be one initially with possibly more later, is that what you're saying?
Initially, no. Our equipment, the bug tussle equipment that is, which we would provide service off of, would be nothing more than a concrete pad with, I call it an outside refrigerator, a small cabinet. There would be no building structure at all. But there would be a concrete pad and some equipment on that pad in the initial plan.
Can you again briefly explain why you cannot meet the setbacks and why you're here for the variance?
Well, part of it is the wetland line. The map that was provided. There's a 50-foot setback from the established wetland location, and the other thing is just again working with the township is positioning tower that they had room for expansion with their property. At some point doing some remodeling or addition to their town hall or shed.
Have you considered any other options for locating this tower?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We've looked at other towers locations, and to be honest with you, most of the adjacent towers that are available to us we're already on. We are currently on a portable unit in the village of Wild Rose. Once this tower is constructed, that portable unit would be removed, and Plain South, the Wild Rose North, Saxville, Mount Morris. I think there was a map provided. Those are all adjacent sites that we are currently on and providing service. And just as this tower is required to fill, again, I provided some drawings, and I don't know if I need to go into those, just to fill in the voids of the Wild Rose Springwater area.
Okay. You stated earlier that this tower is designed to self-collapse, so to speak.
I can provide, and I sent a sample letter attached with the documents. Yes, this tower we can have constructed so that it collapses within a 125-foot radius, so half the height. And I would provide that contingent on a decision. But that's something I need to, with my tower manufacturer, purchase, so that's why I haven't proceeded yet at that point. But I can, if that's a contingency or what's the word I'm looking for, a condition of the approval.
Are there any structures located within 75% of the height of this tower?
No, and that's, again, looking at the drawings, and that's why it was placed accordingly with the county zoning of 75% is to avoid the existing town hall. And if you look at circle radiuses, that's kind of showing that offset.
What is the hardship or unique property limitations that would support this variance?
Well, like I said, it's the it's the wetland line, help place this tower, the setbacks from the buildings, the existing buildings on the site, and this, the property size. And, we approached the township because, part of our lease agreement, it generates income for them also. So, and that's why this site was targeted,
Okay.
along with our coverage area, obviously.
And are you aware of what permits you need to proceed with this?
Yes.
And if an approval were granted tonight, when do you plan on construction?
We would, pending our conditional use approval, we would proceed with surveying and all our environmental approvals, our NEPA, our Phase 1 studies, our FCC, FAA filings. So long story short, we're probably looking at about 4 or 5 month process. So if it all goes good, about right around Thanksgiving.
Any other committee questions? George?
Looking at your site plan here,
Okay.
it appears that if you use the self-collapsing tower within a 125-foot radius,
Yep.
that you have plenty of area there to move this back 50 foot, which I would believe would solve the variance problem.
We could position it closer to the buildings, and I had talked to actually Everett right before our meeting, and we could do that, is move it within that 125-foot radius, yes, if that.
And since there's no reason that's apparent that you can't do it, you could then live with a restriction of moving it back
Sure.
into the
I would be fine with that, positioning,
town's,
yes. And with the 125 foot, we're already within the south, is it the south or the west? The west property line
the
already.
west is okay with the
Yes.
125, yes?
He's saying just moving it up a little bit. Yeah, that would not be a problem. But I would like to converse, make sure the township would not have a problem with that. Part of the reason why we placed it here is that their request is to have as much space for their possible expansion.
It would probably be a good thing to do,
Oh.
and
Okay,
before we
that's fine.
make a decision on
Yep.
it.
We can work with that.
Any other committee
Well,
questions?
it's wide open land there, so it wouldn't be much of a problem to move it.
No, I don't, we're saying, no, it should not be a problem. And the first thing I looked at was the wetland line, because we have to stay that distance. I don't see a problem with that, no.
Okay, good, thank you.
So, and again, I would provide the letter of the 125 feet, to Terry or zoning at that point.
Now, this is going to be an acquisition, not a long-term lease, the property, or is it going to be a lease?
It is a lease agreement with
A lease
the township,
agreement,
yes.
Okay.
It's a renewable lease, but.
And then according to some of these questions are going to be asked by the Planning and Zoning Committee
Sure.
too, because there's a conditional
that's fine.
use. But you're planning on 3 additional arrays of hardware beyond your
Yeah,
own?
it's available for other carriers
Okay.
to come on there, so, anybody else is available. It's constructed to handle 4 carriers.
And if this tower would be to be moved slightly, as Mr. Wilson suggested, that's not going to pose an encroachment on the wetlands?
No, we would have to position, we would hug that line with the driveway or the compound area. So we would be moving it to the north, looking at a map here again, the northwest, toward the township's existing buildings.
Thank you.
We've had several cell tower requests come from Buck Tussle. I'm just wondering how many more they're going to need in the county.
There'll be more. We hope there's more. We hope it all goes good. But where we're at is, last year we did one with you, the county through in the Poisippi area. Future growth, I'll be honest with you, probably next month, we're probably looking at one in Dakota area. And we'd rather not build. It's a very expensive process to build and a process to go through zoning. But, we've targeted Waushara County and some of the adjacent counties to enhance our coverage, and we're getting requests with our store opening up in Watoma, a lot of contact with customers looking for service in some of these areas. So we're looking at, to answer your question, not to labor on this, but the Dakota area, possibly the Pine River area. So our coverage maps, you know, it kind of shows in this map here, is about 10 miles apart. So each tower covers about 5-6 miles of service, and that's high-speed internet and mobile phone service.
In a radius?
Radius, yes. And it barring terrain and so forth, but that's, you know, so the first thing we do look at is what's adjacent for existing towers. And what happens is sometimes we're just positioning them, you know, to fill the kind of a coffee cup design, I guess.
Okay, any other committee questions? You can have a seat then, thank you. We have registered to speak in favor, Everett Eckstein.
Bug Tussle came to the town a couple of years ago now and asked if we would be interested in it. They said they were going to put it they asked if they could put it in the town property, or if not, it would probably be within the property within sight of the town, because that is where they needed it. We had to make the decision whether we wanted it or not. It might interfere with any future expansion. Our buildings are old, and we eventually would like to add to them or remove them and move back towards where this tower will be. But there was a slight incentive with the, I think it's $2,500 or $250 a month. That's not big bucks for the town, but still, we felt we could use it to benefit the entire town rather than maybe just one person as such. And as long as he said it would be within sight of our township property, no matter what, because that's where they needed it, we felt it would interfere the least with any of the property owners. And that's basically it. I brought a letter in this morning that will probably be read, I hope, from the town.
We'll look. I remember that now. I looked for it before and I didn't see it.
This was discussed Monday night at our town board meeting, and we decided to write a letter besides myself so that the committee and everyone was aware this was a town decision.
Okay.
Questions of myself?
Everett, do you have any problems, does the town have any problems with moving the tower back 50 foot so it clears the fence line? It looks like it would still be clearing the buildings with the reconstruction or the redesign of it to suit falling within a 125-foot radius.
I'm not sure what the restrictions would be on the town as far as future buildings, so I honestly can't answer that question. What we would like to do if we build would be to move our buildings straight to the south, and I'm not sure if that would be possible or not once this is done.
Actually, you have room to move the buildings
Okay.
and meet the 125-foot design limit if it was moved back.
Okay, that's all we're concerned with as far as, so it'd be no problem, I hope. No problem, George.
Okay, no other questions? Thanks, Everett.
Sure. The letter from the town of Springwater is addressed to Washington County Zoning, to whom it may concern. Cloud One applications for a variance and a conditional use. The town board of the town of Springwater has asked me to write to you informing you that they are in favor of Cloud One's applications for a variance and a conditional use in order to construct a communications tower in Section 31 of the town of Springwater. This parcel of land is owned by the town of Springwater and is where the Springwater Town Hall is located. The town board has approved the placement of the communications tower. They believe this will be a benefit to the community as a whole and to the town in particular, and that it will provide additional resources for today's technology needs. It will also provide a monthly stipend to the town. We ask that you will consider these facts when making your decisions, and that's signed Everett Eckstein, town board chairperson.
Other correspondence?
No other correspondence.
Okay, we have registered to speak in opposition, Jeff Eggers.
Actually, can I clarify that no other correspondence? There is a letter from Reby Sprang, but it's just about the placement of the tower in general, not about the setbacks, so I'll read that for the conditional use.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Eggers, and I speak for the following persons, including myself, my wife Susan Eggers, also known as Susan Annis, Nancy Jorgensen, and Mary Eggers, all of whom who own land adjacent to or surrounding the area of the proposed site plan for the communication tower. We ask that you strongly consider not allowing this tower to be erected in this location, as it would have an adverse impact on scenic view, building a residential dwelling, and or defect on the saleability of the properties in the future if we should decide to sell. My wife Susan and I have had a proposed site plan for a building site just south of the planned site, approximately 40 yards south of the township of Springwater South lot line. We've had soil borings done and chose this location because of its highest and best use for the well and septic and because of the grades. Nancy Jorgensen and Mary Eggers built a home just west of the Springwater Town Hall. They built here because of the landscape and the scenic beauty that this land has offered for so many years in our family. No one wants to look out their backyard and see a 250-foot tower that is not appealing in the least and will be well above the tree line. The nature and scenic beauty of this land has been enjoyed by my family now in its 6th generation. Is there not another location with higher and better use of land for this type of tower that would benefit us all? It is my understanding that there may be or may have been another site location. We're not against business growth and understand the future of technology is rapidly growing and unavoidable. However, we ask that you would protect our right to use and enjoyment of the property in these rural areas that have residential homes near or around so that we can continue to enjoy and pass this on to the next generation without having to look at what we feel is a nuisance out our back door. Thank you.
I have a question. If the variance would be denied and the tower would be located at 75% of the height setback from your property, would you still be in opposition to the tower location?
Correct. Yes, I would.
That's what I assume. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. We have registered in opposition but not speak, Susan Eggers. Okay. Staff comments?
For the record, the board has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all the other pertinent data for this application that they are considering tonight. They also visited the property and viewed the proposal and the location on site. I'd like to explain a little bit about variances, and I think we've kind of made this clear. Variances ask for a relaxation of a dimensional standard in the code. The decision to grant a variance must be backed by substantive reasons, which include an unnecessary hardship as being caused by the code requirement. There are unique limitations on the property that will prevent the landowner from meeting the required dimensional standards. And if the variance is granted, no harm will be done to the public interest or the zoning code. And it's the applicant's responsibility to present this case and provide the burden of proof as to why the variance should be granted. This is separate from whether the tower should be there at all, and that will be considered by the Planning and Zoning Committee as the conditional use permit. So it's really just where it's located and meeting that setback. I should also mention that we have just changed our setback from 1.1 times the height to 75% of the height of the tower, because most testimony is that the towers will self-collapse, and it's usually within 50 to 65%. So we still have a little bit of a safety factor in there with the 75%. Personal situation of the applicant or financial reasons, none of those are considered as valid reasons to grant a variance. When the board visited the property, they noted that the tower is a self-supporting tower with no guy wires, and they noticed that the fall radius of the tower would be 125 feet based on information provided by the applicant. I'm glad you explained about the sample letter, because I was really confused because it said it would fall within 0 feet, and then I realized it was just a sample. The only buildings currently in place that would be in danger in a tower failure would be those owned by the town of Springwater, who is proposing to lease the property to the tower company. And that's it for my comments.
Okay, does the applicant have anything in rebuttal to testimony presented tonight?
My name is Michael Long, L-O-N-G. I'm with Cloud One, Bug Tussle. One of the things that I don't know if we necessarily had an opportunity to explain is why we need a 250-foot high tower. And that is, based on the design of the surrounding sites and the terrain. In order for us to get an ample coverage, we need about 250 feet of space from the ground up for our antenna to get the signal out to the customers. If you look at our existing sites surrounding, we're proposing to put this new site. We're all, at mounting heights in the neighborhood of 200 to 250 feet. You could say, well, could you shrink the size of the tower down to avoid having to have a variance? And the answer to that is no. And in order for us to get a coverage over the tree lines, we do need to be at least 250 feet above ground level. So that's why we're looking at a 250-foot high tower.
Okay. Thank you. That closes the public hearing for the Board of Adjustments. Planning and Zoning Committee will meet for their public hearing. We will adjourn to the room through the doors there for a business meeting. So anyone with an interest in the variance may come to our business meeting.
Any person other than the applicant that would like to speak before this committee would need to fill out one of the slips outside the doors, just in case you came in after we started, and then turn them in to me. Please be sure to indicate which application you're here for, because we obviously have several to go through yet. Thank you.
I'll call this meeting with Sheriff County Planning and Zoning Committee to order. Meeting will be conducted in the same manner as the applications heard by the Board of Adjustments. Please remember to keep your comments brief and relative to the matter at hand. The same time limits will apply to the testimony, which is 5 minutes for the applicant outside of committee questions and 3 minutes for other testimony, including any rebuttal by the applicant. Anyone other than the applicant or the representative wishing to speak at this hearing must have registered. Anyone who has not should do so immediately and submit a registration slip to the zoning administrator. The committee has looked at all the properties, and a record will reflect these observations. Following the public hearing, the committee will conduct a monthly business meeting, at which time we will vote on the applications. You may stay and hear how the applications are decided, or you may leave following the public hearing. Any person affected by the administrative decision of this committee has 10 days from the filing of tonight's decision to make an appeal. Such appeals are heard by the Board of Adjustment. Information applications are available from the zoning office. The county assumes no liability and makes no warranty as to the legality of any construction commencing prior to the expiration of this 10-day period. I will now introduce the committee. To my left is Bob Wadle, Larry Crawford, Donna Collada. I'm Joe Piaski, and to my right is Terry Pockstadt, zoning administrator. Okay, our first application is for a variance. Oh, I got to flip the page. We did that one already. Ours is a conditional use. And our first application is Archer Daniels Midland Company. Decatur, Illinois has made application for conditional use in accordance with Section 58-454, parentheses 17 of the Share County Zoning Code to expand an existing grain storage operation with the construction of two 48-foot diameter grain bins and one 105-foot grain bin and one 305-foot temporary grain storage area, dryer, elevator, and associated equipment, and construction of a 40 by 50 office building in the AG General Ag Zone. The location is five parcels combined, being approximately 61.7 acres in size, being part of the southwest one quarter of the southwest one quarter, Section 8, Town 18, Range 13, Town of Aurora, W2018, State Road 21, and N1784, State Road 49. Is the applicant here? Come up in front.
My name is Darren Heckman. I'm with Archer Daniels Midland.
Please spell that, sir.
Darren, D-A-R-O-N. Heckman, H-E-C-K-M-A-N-N.
Thank you.
Could you tell us briefly about the project?
Yeah, our intent is to build, like you said, 2 to 3 grain bins adjacent to the existing structure, a ground pile storage structure, associated roads that would lead into the structure back out to Route 49. The new entrance off Route 49 would be farther north away from the four corners between Route 21 and 49 to help alleviate some of the congestion at that four corner area. It'd be our intent to have an office, new scale, that would accommodate more trucks that could be in line to get them off the highway or anything like that during the busy time of harvest.
Okay. How many employees do you anticipate will be needed during the peak time of the year
In addition to what we already have, is that your question?
to run the operation? Yeah.
Usually during harvest season, we'll add anywhere from 1 to 3 part-time employees during busy season.
What sort of traffic do you anticipate during the peak times? How many trucks?
We could have, I would anticipate 20 to 30 trucks an hour.
You planning on any advertising or directional signs?
Yes,
What would you be using, would you think?
we would probably use signs that
Like-
would
like-
just direct trucks in the right driveway, things like that, traffic flow around the facility.
And what sort of traffic plan are you anticipating with all the incoming grain coming in the new driveway?
Yeah, our intent would bring them down the new driveway, which would be farther away from the four corner. Everything else would be on private drive, then going through the new facility and back out that same driveway off 49.
Will you be using the existing drive for some of that, or is that not going to be used for the?
Most of the
Grain
grain traffic would go through the new driveway. There would be some agronomy, there would be a few other things in the existing driveways, but it would be greatly reduced.
You're still going to use the existing for loading grain out or stuff like that? Or is that
It
going to be
is
all
possible
changed?
to use it for some, yes.
Because the existing bins are going to stay,
Yes.
right? And there is access to them from 21.
Yes.
That won't be connected to the back drive, to come out of the back drive into 21 area?
We
All
have no,
traffic will go in and out of 49.
we intend all traffic to go off 49, yep.
The only new driveways you're planning is that new one coming out, or you're not planning on adding any other ones?
Correct.
Have you talked to the DOT about whether any permits are needed to accommodate this driveway?
Yes, we have.
You'll meet the spacings?
Yes.
You're aware of the commercial building codes, the stormwater permits, and all the requirements that you'll need to do this?
Yes, we are.
Will you need to do a lot of filling and grading and for the construction of the proposed storage facilities?
We've defined a lot.
How many big areas? I mean, how much earth are you gonna have to move?
There will be a fair amount of earth that will be moved to build drive.
Acreage, 5 acres.
If I had to guess, we'd be in the 2 to 3 acre range of disturbed soil.
How do you plan to deal with the stormwater runoff from all these improvements?
We'll have DNR-approved retention ponds.
What sort of sanitary facilities are you planning for the new office?
There'll be a septic system for the new
Bathrooms?
office.
Are you planning any other additions or buildings planned other than what you have indicated on the site plan?
No,
You anticipate any products will need to be stored outside other than your grain area?
grain storage at all.
That big grain storage area? Do you plan on continuing your retail sales in the existing buildings?
Yes,
Will there be any chemicals that are stored in association with the grain drying operation, and if so, are you aware of the permits and restrictions for storing them?
we have no intentions of storing any of that on this.
On
Property.
the other part, you'll still be the same, huh?
Yes, same on the old.
How do you plan to control the dust and the chaff generated by both the traffic and the grain?
Traffic will be treated, in the first few years anyway, treated with a soap stock. It's a soybean oil, natural-based dust suppressant. It'll go on the road, and it'll go on the ground pile area also. We would also treat the grain with a mineral oil as it goes on the ground pile for dust control. The new dust, the dump pits would have a building over them to enclose the dust and any type of emissions from that during the dumping process.
We're planning on having a second property address number, fire number for the other facility?
A separate address, you're saying, for that?
What we call fire number, which is a sign that goes out by the road.
If that would be required, we would.
Has there been a recent survey of the plot, and do you know where the lot lines are?
Yes,
There are several smaller parcels here that need to be combined into one for your project, is that correct?
yes.
If approval is granted, when do you anticipate starting construction on this?
30 to 60 days.
That's all the questions we have right now for you. You can take a seat.
Thank you.
Do you have any correspondence?
Yes, we have one letter from the town of Aurora. It's addressed to me, Dear Terry. At a special board meeting last Thursday, the Aurora board met with representatives of ADM Grain and interested citizens at the town hall. After a brief overview of the expansion was presented by Mr. Darren Heckman, neighboring property owners were asked if they had any concerns. The only question from citizens was from a neighboring used car dealer who experienced problems with corn dust on his cars at harvest time in the past. He was told that the new facility should create significantly less dust by Mr. Heckman. The board did note that ADM regularly washed the cars on the dealer's lot at their expense, and that he was satisfied with that. Board members commented that they were pleased with the proposed expansion. They felt that the new construction would be much safer for farmers and the public, as there shouldn't be the big backup of trucks and tractors on the highway during the rush of harvest. Area farmers will also appreciate the much shorter waits to unload. The board voted unanimously to recommend approval of the conditional use permit. We are pleased to support the new expansion to this business, bringing additional jobs and additional tax base to our town. And that's signed sincerely, Jerry Lutrip, clerk for the town of Aurora. That's it for correspondence.
Anyone registered to speak in favor?
No one registered to speak at all.
Staff comments?
For the record, the committee has previously been furnished with a copy of the site plan and all the other pertinent data for this and all the other applications that they will be considering tonight. And at this time, I'd like to explain a little bit about conditional use permits. All defined zones have uses that are permitted outright, along with uses that may be permitted provided certain conditions are met. And that's what we're looking at here, a use that may be permitted provided that certain parameters can be complied with. And that allows the use to remain in keeping with the surrounding uses and area. In some counties, these permits are called special exception permits. It is the landowner's responsibility to provide the information that shows the committee this use is still in keeping with the zone and area it is proposed for, and that the conditions placed on it will help ensure that it will still be a good neighbor to the surrounding property owners. A grain processing facility is listed as a conditional use in the ag zone, just like a cheese factory. Churches are another one. You know, there's lots of things that we expect to find in the ag zone, but you want to kind of look at them on a case-by-case basis and make sure that those conditions are placed on there. The committee visited the property, and they noted that the lot lines were not clearly marked and that a survey should be done to combine the parcels if an approval was going to be considered. Traffic flow will need to be carefully arranged, and DOT must be contacted regarding upgrading of existing driveways or installation of new ones, with the possibility of removing some existing driveways if that would enhance traffic flow and safety. Finally, they noted that there will likely be concerns about dust from both the traffic as well as the grain operation. They also noted that no parking should be allowed on the state road. Sanitary facilities must be designed and installed to serve all of the proposed activities that will take place on the property, and that the operation should have a separate address number that should facilitate people finding the right driveway when they're delivering grain rather than buying birdseed or something else. So that's it.
Okay, is there anything the applicant would like to rebuttal? Nothing else? Okay, then we'll move on. The second one is Douglas and Martha Bolig. Sun Prairie have made application for conditional use in accordance with section 58-236, parentheses 18, and 58-454, parentheses 31, and the Sheriff County zoning code to store a 1984 weekend or 30-foot travel trailer in the AG General Ag Zone. Location approximately 20-acre parcel of land being in the west one half of the southeast one quarter, the southwest one quarter, and easement in section 20, Town of Coloma, second lane. Applicant here. Will they come up? State your name and basically tell us what you got going
Douglas
there.
Bollig, B-O-L-L-I-G.
Explain what you got going on out there.
Okay, we want to put a camper on our 20 acres. Park a camper on our 20 acres. It's a 30-footer with the tongue by 8 wide. We're going to have a portable chemical toilet. I don't know what else I can tell you,
Okay,
or
we
what
have,
you'd like to know.
okay, we have some questions for you. So.
Sure.
Has there been a recent survey? Are you sure of the lot lines?
No. Not of 2 of them. Not surveyed.
Will the trailer be at least 100 feet from all lot lines?
Yes.
Is the trailer licensed and roadworthy right now?
Yes.
Will there be any running water?
Running water? No.
What type of sanitary facilities are planned besides from those that might be in the trailer right now?
We're not using the ones in the trailer. We're going to use a chemical, portable chemical.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Yeah.
I have to ask the question
sure.
for records. Are there any other buildings or structures planned?
Land? No.
Are there other trailers in the area? In your,
On my property?
no, in your neighboring?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Now, how far you want to go?
Well,
They're all over.
yeah, okay. What other trailers are, no, I'm sorry. Is a new driveway needed?
No.
Is this property in management forest law?
No.
You have any uniform property address number, fire number? Do you have a fire number now?
Well, yeah, well, we used to have. I got that. I'm sure you've got it. I think it's, what is it, Dan? What? N1021. That, we had, something happened to the fire numbers, I don't know, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And so my eldest son requested a fire number because in case they worry about me up there, because I'm old. But if somebody got shot, fire, we get a letter every year from the emergency services to make sure that all emergency equipment can get in there. And we have a right-of-way in there we have to keep that open, and we do. Emergency equipment can get in. But then I found out that if you don't have any building on the property, you don't get a fire number.
But you will have a trailer there now.
So now we will get a fire number?
Well, you said you had one.
Yeah, but it's gone.
The sign is gone, so you need a new sign,
No, that's
but
what
the
we
number's
need.
okay.
The number is the same, or will be the same.
Be the same then, okay.
Just need the sign.
Because that concerned us. The only thing we could do is use the next door neighbors, so they'd know, because they got it at the fire station and stuff, I'm sure, on a plot or something, map.
You notify the county or your town, and I'm sure they'll,
I made a note, I'll make sure a new sign gets put up.
I called, is it Mike Kirschner? Mark. And I talked to him about what was going on, so he knows.
He'll take care of that now.
Okay. Can I ask one more question quick?
the,
We got a couple more questions for
Good,
you.
good.
couple more. The trailer has already been placed, correct?
Yes.
Yes, that's all the questions I have.
Sure.
Okay.
If I'm gonna be up there for a weekend, okay, I got a permit, and say you guys okay this, gals? I'm gonna be there for a whole week. The first weekend, my son comes up with a pop-up camper. And then he goes home Sunday. Can he leave that there while I'm there all week?
He's not even supposed to bring his camper and camp there. It's for one camper only.
I thought that was for, you can't leave it there.
No, your property is for one camper. Now, if he
My
comes up
family
for a
can't-
weekend, do I think somebody's gonna report him and we're gonna come out there? But if he leaves, the pop-up should go with him.
I'm just curious, it should go with them, but he can camp on it for a weekend.
Technically, it's for one camper, but again,
Really?
people do that periodically, and we don't go around on weekends rousting them out, so I don't think where you're located, there's gonna be any
Well, you
problem
know,
with
I'm-
getting reported.
I'm way in the middle of the section, nobody can see it from the sky.
But don't tell anybody I said that, even though
I didn't hear you.
I've just been
I
recorded.
didn't hear you. Okay, I'll tell him not to bring his camper, too.
I heard you.
Will I be notified, if you do approve this, will I be notified next year when you inspect it and that everything's all right?
Yes, you will get an inspection report.
Okay? You got any more questions for me?
That's it for you. You can sit down.
So you won't approve this until when?
Tonight.
Tonight.
One way or the other. We make our decision tonight.
We're from Sun Prairie, so we're probably gonna leave, and I'll maybe call tomorrow.
Right.
Call in the morning.
That's
Can I
fine.
call
It could
Kyle?
get- It could get
Get
late.
late.
Could get late before we're done.
Well, he helped me a lot, guiding me through this here, so I wanna thank him also, so. And thank yous.
Correspondence.
We have no correspondence, but I did receive a phone call from the town chairman, and he stated that although the applicant did not come to the town board, and they really prefer that applicants do so prior to the public hearing, they have no objections to the placement of this trailer in this location. And I received that phone call on May 15th. Mark Kirschner, the town chairman. That's what he told me, and I read it back to him. You're welcome. And that's it.
No correspondence. Anyone in favor to speak?
Nope.
Objections or information?
Nope.
Staff comments.
This is another conditional use. This time, we're looking at a permit that allows a camping or travel trailer to remain on a property when the occupant is not there. As I stated before, you can always camp on your property. The problem comes in when they leave their camper there, and then sometimes they never come back. So we call this unoccupied storage of the unit. Some of the conditions for placement of a camper on the property are listed in the zoning code, and they include only one unit per parcel, and it is only allowed on vacant parcels that are zoned general agricultural or forestry protection. The unit must be kept licensed and roadworthy at all times, so they could actually remove it should that become necessary. There must be proper sanitary facilities provided other than those in the trailer, so they don't always have to haul it out when they're there to dump the sanitary facilities. The unit should not be visible from neighboring properties or public roads, and it must be located at least 100 feet from all water bodies and lot lines, to name a few. I will say that the committee did not visit this property because they had been informed by the town chairman that the access was gated, so we would not be able to drive in there, and that it was well off the road and we would not be able to see it from the public road, so we didn't even drive out there to visit the property. And that's it for my comments.
Okay, is there any rebuttal from the applicant? They
I
left
think they
already?
just left.
So then we'll move on. And our third one is Thomas Miller with Toma has made an application for conditional use after the fact in accordance with section 58-903, parentheses 3 of the Washera County zoning code for filling and grading in excess of 10,000 square feet within 300 feet of an unnamed body of water in a RS-20 residential single family and the ON Natural Resources Preservation Zone within the shoreland area. Location of approximately 3.950 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 is certified survey map 1888, being part of the Northwest 1 Quarter, the Southwest 1 Quarter, Section 7, Town of Marion, W7036 Cottonville Drive. The applicant is here. State your name and tell us the story.
Thomas Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. I think due to the fact of your backlog of people here, and I only have 5 minutes, I'm glad I wrote this down. I'll speak fast and take your questions.
And I would note that he did give some site plans.
Yeah,
so you
I
could look
made
at 'em while he
copies
was
for you.
speaking.
So as I read along, you can follow. Thank you. Yeah, the first page is the site plan. You notice in the upper left-hand corner, southwest, east, and north. As stated, I have roughly 3.9 acres adjacent to a beautiful wetland. And I am in the process, or was in the process, of making a final grading, which I didn't think I had, was necessary to make a final grading. It'll be, my explanation is better written down. Dear board members and zoning officials, I've had the pleasure of owning roughly 4 acres of property adjacent to a beautiful Wautoma wetland marsh since 1981. I retired to this property in 2003 to become a permanent resident. It is well obvious to all concerned that about 20 years ago I took to grading the property soon after purchase without full knowledge to first establish a grading permit, and that's requiring permit necessary for 10,000 square feet of excavating or landscaping to a wetland. At that public hearing 20 years ago, I was given a conditional permit to proceed landscaping, providing I erect proper silt fencing and to plant trees and vegetation in respect to all who shared the common marsh periphery. This I did with pine trees that are now about 20 feet tall. This was an erosion measure as well as a visual buffer between my home and the marsh. About a month and a half ago, while establishing a final grade on the acreage, I was met by zoning representative Mr. Rick Erdl, who told me that a permit was first needed if I was to proceed. I told him that I was under the impression that I applied for one only if the 10,000 square feet grading provision was necessary, which in my estimate I thought did not apply. He advised me that, quote, any disturbance of soil, end quote, in excess of 10,000 square feet did in fact require a permit. This is where the misunderstanding originated, since I was under the wrong impression that a permit be required only when rough grading or where vegetation was removed. He told me that I should stop all further landscaping until a public hearing and conditional use permit was applied for. He instructed me the following day, when in the presence of Representative Tom Litton from zoning, the erosion specialist, to erect 300 feet of silt fence where the danger of sand erosion presented itself along the marsh. I had already erected silt fencing before commencing my landscape project, but Mr. Litton said it had not been properly installed to codes and length. The very next day, I rented a trencher and installed the 300 feet of silt fencing he and Mr. Ertl suggested. Mr. Ertl also took issue with an erosion solution I had installed over 20 years ago. Since my property line adjacent to the marsh is relatively steep, I took measures to place wooden pallets along my frontage, horizontally fitted side by side, to curtail possible erosion. I covered them with a permanent plastic, 1/4 inch thick, along with plywood. I told them that this measure had served well to not only prevent erosion, but also to prevent the encroachment of wild grapevine. Mr. Litton told me later that this was not permeable to water. A compromise was reached when I told him of my intention to remove the plastic and plywood covering, allowing permeability, to which he gave no objection. It took me 1.5 weeks to remove the impermeable covering. I then filled in and covered the pallets with a shallow layer of sand, gravel, and clay mix, followed by topsoil, and then covered with FiberGuard, a biodegradable erosion mat, after I seeded it. After first seeding the topsoil with Indian grass, switchgrass, and big blue stem. These native deep-rooted plants were first suggested by Mr. Leighton for providing the maximum for erosion control. It was also suggested by Neil DeBole, president of Prairie Nursery in Westfield, who I later consulted with. I also used many 50-foot rolls of erosion mat along with wire meshing along the steep sloped area adjacent to the marsh. If you look at the site plan, that slope area I'm referring to is adjacent to the pond, in between the pond and the marsh on the north side.
5 minutes are up.
Excuse me?
Your 5 minutes are up.
Oh,
Can you wrap
already?
it up?
Anyway, I just want to thank everybody for their advice, and I'm in compliance, I believe, now, and I'm glad to have the privilege to be in such a beautiful area, and hope I'm making my neighbors proud.
Okay, we'll have some questions for you here.
I'm sorry.
Could you explain just a little bit more on how this got started and what you envision the area to look like when you're finally done with it?
20 years ago, at that last hearing, that question was asked, and I then stated my intention was to never sublet the lots or sell them or establish any other property. The buildings and the home and the building present is where it will stay. The intention is to make a park type atmosphere where wildlife and it's amenable to the beauty of the wetland.
Okay. What sort of erosion control measures are you planning on installing when you continue?
Most have been already placed in the upper right-hand corner of the site plan where it says slope. That's the steepest area. I put in erosion mat and seeded it with fast-growing oats, big blue stem, and Indian grass and switchgrass.
Okay, you have talked this over with the Land Conservation Department?
Land Conservation Department.
Tom Litwin worked.
Tom Litwin and that?
Oh, yes.
You have-
We had extensive meetings.
Okay.
right
Are you
away.
aware of the 35-foot vegetation protection area required near the pond?
Yes, I am.
Are you planning on restoring some of the vegetation along the slope of the marsh?
That's where Neil DuBois came in, and I've already taken measures to plant deep-rooted blue stem to help the erosion in a maximum fashion.
And you are planning on using native species when you restore the vegetation along the marsh?
Yes.
Native to the area?
Yes. Indian big blue stem was suggested along with Indian grass and switchgrass.
Are you planning on any filling or grading within 35 feet of the marsh area?
No.
When did you start this project, and when is your anticipated finishing date?
I started roughly last fall to secure the area adjacent to my home because there was some erosion there, and I was afraid of losing a pine tree, so I extended a little fill. But first I erected silt fencing, and I plan to be finished completely by this fall. All grasses planted, especially on the area approximately 1 acre in the west end, west of the pond, between the pond and Eunice Stevens, my neighbor. I plan to plant wildflowers and native grasses.
Okay. What sort of vegetation is being planned to stabilize the rest of the site where all the filling and grading has taken place?
I proceeded to, after stripping the pallets, the wooden pallets of the impermeable surfaces, I filled in between them and made a shallow layer of sand, clay, gravel mix to keep them in place, and over that topsoil, which will be seeded with the 3 native plants I already mentioned.
And how long do
and along with the erosion mat at top of that.
And how long do you anticipate it will take before the site is stabilized?
All erosion mat areas will be stabilized. I'll continue to water them diligently so that they probably will be stabilized. I consider it stable now with the heavy sand, clay, gravel, but an erosion mat. But to germinate those plants, probably 2 months.
Do you know exactly how large of an area has already been disturbed?
It's in excess of 10,000 square feet. Again,
you don't know any measurements, or
no. We took some measurements, Rick Erdl and I, and that's where the misunderstanding lay. I thought where I was doing major landscaping to fill in a depression, roughly between the pond, the upper right-hand corner. The depression required a couple of truckloads of sand, which are still there because I had to stop progress until this hearing. But 3 silt fences or 2 silt fences have already been erected by that depression. And I told Terry, the zoning administrator, that I'd put a 3rd one up to stabilize that shoreline so there'd be absolutely no erosion.
Okay. Will the finished grades divert any stormwater onto neighboring properties or the town road?
Negative. In the landscaping process, I sloped all the ground towards the pond and towards the south, away from the marsh.
Okay, the next question was going to be, what about down towards the marsh, but you just answered that. Have you checked with the DNR about what sort of permits might be needed for these projects?
I thought the only permit needed was, again, in excess of 10,000 square feet where vegetation was removed or where I did major excavating.
And then,
So I didn't think it necessary.
and one final question, when we were out there inspecting the property, we noticed a lot of, for lack of a better word, miscellaneous items that were parked out there. Are they
Creative
gonna disappear?
stockpile of tools.
Is
and
that
things.
gonna disappear, or-
I assured Terry and Mrs. Collada that and one other person I don't see. Oh, that was you. You looked
But
a
I
lot
gotta-
older then.
gotta ask the
You looked a lot older then.
Oh.
No,
Sorry about that.
No, I'm kidding. No, I assured Terry personally when she asked that question. I said I'll have it all removed by fall.
Okay. That's all the questions we have at this time of you.
I have one
Terry
more.
has one, sorry.
When you say that you diverted all the stormwater to the south, isn't that towards the town road?
Towards Cottonville Drive.
Yes.
You'll notice that, looking at the plan, that there's pine trees and oaks hatched off, towards Cottonville Drive. That's higher. I did put in a lot of topsoil and straw matting to stop the erosion where I contoured that particular area. So there's no runoff will go to the road. And I did connect with Mr. Waleko of the town of Marion, and he said he had no objection. That it sounded fine, what I was
There's
doing.
no problem. There was a culvert there, it looked like, too. That's
There's a
still-
culvert there. I put a little silt fence in there. That water comes across from the south off a neighboring hill. It goes under Cottonville Drive and empties into that pond. And so where that culvert is, I noticed that heavy rain we had recently, I put silt fencing up so that culvert doesn't become blocked.
Okay.
That's it for my questions.
Okay, you can take a seat. We keep it going on here. Any correspondence?
Yes, we have one email that I received from the DNR. It's addressed to me. Dear Terry, I am writing to provide comments regarding the Miller property after the fact conditional use request that is to be heard before the Washera County Planning and Zoning Committee Thursday, May 17th. Thank you for your time and assistance in discussing these requests and for providing me with application materials. I am providing these comments in place of making an appearance in person. Please have them delivered to and/or read before the Board of Adjustments. The department understands the applicant filled in a slightly depressed and uneven area, apparently no deeper than 2 feet over most of the property. The applicant filled without acquiring required permits and/or approvals. The applicant filled an area greater than 10,000 square feet. The filled area is not a wetland. The filled area is as close as approximately just further than 35 feet from the water-filled swamp that has been determined to be navigable. The filled area is to be replanted. Numerous items, including an old wood fence, are located near or along the boundary between the filled area and the water-filled swamp. The department recommends the following if the Planning and Zoning Committee grants the conditional use. 1, install and maintain vegetative shoreland buffers according to NRCS Standard 643A and Wisconsin Biological Technical Note Number 1 is found in Section 58-903, Parents N, Parents 5 of the Washera County Zoning Code, along at least 70% of the shoreline of the water-filled swamp to a depth of 35 feet from the ordinary high water mark. Support for this is in Section 58-903, Parents N, Parents 3, and 58-903, Parents N, Parents 3A. Number 2, remove the items including an old wood fence located near or along the boundary between the filled area and the water-filled swamp. And 3, require the applicant to contact Will Stites to determine if any waterway permits are required from the department. Please note that these comments are in regard to shoreline zoning only and do not reflect applicable erosion control, waterway permitting, or other department regulations. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments regarding the Miller property after the fact conditional use request. Please contact me if you have any questions regarding this email, and that's signed Michael Wenholtz, Department of Natural Resources. And that's it for correspondence.
Anyone speak in favor?
No one registered to speak in favor.
Mrs. Switch.
Speak in opposition.
Speaking in opposition. Eunice Stevens.
I just wanted to say that there were.
State your name and where you live.
Eunice Stevens.
Can you pull the microphone down a little bit too? We can't.
Eunice Stevens, and I live to the west of that property. And our concern, the neighbor across the road, and my concern is the ditches that have been filled. That area of road is very icy already, and now that he's raised the elevation and filled the ditches, we're going to have more water in that road. That's going to ice over in the winter and create even more dangerous travel on Cottonville. So that would be our objection. Thank you.
Okay, I guess the next thing would be staff comments. That's next.
You'll have an opportunity at the end, okay? Now we have another conditional use application, a little bit different than the other two, but it would be allowed provided certain conditions are met. In this case, it is to provide for filling and grading of a rather large area close to a navigable body of water. The marsh that we've been talking about has been considered navigable by the DNR for quite some time. If allowed, the conditions should make certain that the water body, the neighbors, and the public at large are protected during the filling and grading project, and that the site is properly stabilized after the project is complete. When the committee visited the property, they noted that the landowners should discuss the additional work being done with the Land Conservation Department and follow any directives that they may have. Planting of native vegetation should be required. It does appear to be that there might be some additional runoff onto the town road. It's kind of hard to tell, you know, because there wasn't really a ditch there. And the landowner should contact the town board and comply with any directives that they have. And that's it for my comments.
Now you have your chance to come back up with a rebuttal.
I went to great lengths to, when I sloped that southern slope that run down from the pine trees, it's a gentle slope, to Cottonville Drive. I took great pains to follow the topography of the existing slope. I smoothed it out in some areas, but as soon as that was done, or not as soon, but a month later, this spring, I had topsoil, eight truckloads of topsoil spread within that area. That's a big area, and it only allowed for like 1 inch of topsoil. I then seeded it immediately with perennial grass, and I overseeded it, especially where water runoff was a concern, to circumvent any water runoff. I'm sure there'll be we will no way jeopardize the safety of Cottonville Drive. There's a slight depression, and the grass is very thick. And on top, between those pine trees, I'm going to put in Lomo grass this fall when it's most conducive for that seed, and so there'll even be less chance of erosion. But for now, there's a silt fence going all along the top of that slope to prevent any water runoff.
Do you have any issues with contacting the town chairman and you know, if you
Not at
want
all,
something else
but
done with the
it
ditch?
comes as a little surprise to me when you mentioned the DNR that additional permits were required.
Sometimes they are. I don't know all of their permits, and they used to have a requirement, and I don't know if they do. Just contact Will Stites. We have his number, and
Okay, I'll get
tell
his
you
number
if
from
you
you.
need
And
something.
I take issue with the fact that something about an old fence must be removed.
Well, what I think he's referring to there is what you've already taken out. He saw the pictures, and he wasn't
the
But,
pallets.
yeah, that's what I think, and then that plastic and plywood, that's what I think he was referring to.
Okay.
I don't think it was the fence
The fence
at all.
itself, because that's
Right.
is a danger, so the
Right.
kids
It
don't
was
fall off.
It was a
the-
poor
the
choice
stuff.
of words.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Our next application is Cloud One, Green Bay, Wisconsin, Town of Springwater landowner. Has made application for conditional use in accordance with sections 58-236, parentheses B, parentheses 20, and 58-454, parentheses 33, with Share County zoning code to place a 250-foot self-supporting communication tower and 3 12-by-16 utility buildings in the AG General Agricultural Zone. Location approximately 3.0 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map 3550, being part of the northwest one quarter of the northeast one quarter, Section 31, Town of Springwater, County Road GH. The applicant come forward. And we're going to go through the same thing again. Different
Well,
questions. Name? What's your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ray Buildings, Bug Tussle Cloud One. I don't know how much you want me to recap from the previous discussion, but I guess one thing I would like to touch base on in this meeting is the need for the tower and this mapping I provided here. But if you would have any additional questions about the structure itself or the compound or
Probably
the
going to be
property.
somewhat the same questions, but
Okay.
because it's a different application.
Sure.
What sort of traffic are you anticipating to the tower site?
Once the construction is completed on the project, very minimal van or pickup truck access to the site itself.
Service maintenance type?
Yes. Now, if there would be a co-location occurrence on the site, there'd be additional construction, but the heavy-duty cement truck / tower erection type equipment would only be one.
And we heard before, you're sure of the lot lines, because you said you'd do a survey, so that one's taken care of. Will the proposed tower be at least 75% of its height from the nearest lot line? And if not, which lot line is it located less than the required setback from?
I guess kind of, again, repeat the kind of the comment from our previous discussion is we're looking at the lot lines of the west and south of the property. But that is contingent on the variance and if we would meet those, the 125-foot fall radius and moving the site within the side of the property lines and that fall distance.
Isn't there also an issue with the one to the north? But it's still owned by the town of Springwater? Are you proposing that it's all combined now? No, it's still going to be two separate parcels, right?
I guess that would be an issue, yes, if that's considered a separate parcel. But that we haven't, but we could provide a letter from that, obviously, that
Okay.
Parcel owner.
Will the property be leased, or do you plan on purchasing the property?
We have reached a lease agreement with the township.
And what will be fenced in, what area?
The compound itself, and I think that was part of the drawings, I believe it's a 50-foot by 50-foot compound around the tower, and all co-location or lease space would be within that area.
Are any utility structures planned within the fences? If so, how many? So you're planning on possible up to 4?
The tower would be built to for 4 carriers or 4 leases.
Are you aware that the county has a long-standing policy of requiring highly visible paint and lighting schemes on all towers?
Yes.
Yeah, that's because of our intensive agriculture use and frequent aerial applications of growing crops. Will a tower be painted?
Yes, it will.
What sort of safety lighting are you proposing?
Due to the height, we would have a daytime mid flashing and then a nighttime flashing at top.
Our code requires that you must prove it is not feasible to build on any other existing towers. If you study the other towers in the area, can you explain why they are not suitable for your equipment?
Yes, I provided this map here, or drawing. Real briefly, what we did is our first attempt is to target that area and look what is available for existing towers. With that, our target is to provide coverage for if you want to call it downtown Wild Rose, and then what do you want to say, coverage to would be the east, I believe, of there. And what we've looked in those areas, part of the, with the existing towers we have located, shown in red and labeled, there is no tower in that direct vicinity of where we want to go. And we identified that as a coverage need. We've got input from local residents looking for coverage, requesting coverage, and that's how we targeted that location. And that best served our needs to, again, cover the downtown and to help support our network of adjacent towers.
Our zoning code also requires that you must agree to lease any other additional space available to other companies at a fair market rate. Does your company have a co-location policy regarding shared tower space, and will the tower be able to support others?
Yes, 4 carriers again.
Are you familiar with county requirements regarding financial certainties for the removal of the tower if it's no longer needed?
Yes, we are.
Are you familiar with all of the requirements, including FAA, FCC, and state building codes?
Yes.
You plan on using existing driveway that accesses the town hall?
Yeah, from off the highway, what is it, Highway GH, we would access through their existing drive and then extend their parking lot to our compound area.
Are you aware of the county requirements regarding posting of the emergency contact information?
Yes, and I believe I sent a picture of something we've done in the past, because I know that was an issue at one time.
It looks like you'll need a new fire number. Is that?
That's fine. If that's required, that's not a
Approve
problem.
when will the tower be constructed?
Pending of the approvals of the NEPA and the FCC, FAA filings, probably we're hoping this fall yet, so November, December, pending weather.
That's all the questions, unless somebody else has something. You can take a seat and we'll keep moving on. Any correspondence?
Yes, we have the letter from the town of Springwater, Cloud One applications for variance and a conditional use to whom it may concern. The town board of the town of Springwater has asked me to write to you, informing you that they are in favor of Cloud One's applications for a variance and a conditional use in order to construct a communications tower in section 31 of the town of Springwater. This parcel of land is owned by the town of Springwater and is where the Springwater Town Hall is located. The town board has approved the placement of the communications tower. They believe this will be a benefit to the community as a whole and to the town in particular, in that it will provide additional resources for today's technology needs. It will also provide a monthly stipend to the town. We ask that you will consider these facts when making your decision, and that's signed sincerely, Everett Eckstein, Town Board Chairperson. Then we also received a letter from Jeffrey Reby of Reby Spraying Service in Plainfield, Wisconsin, and that's addressed to myself and Mark Kirschner, the chair. Cloud One Self-Supporting Communications Tower, Section 31, Town of Springwater on County Road GH. This is a good location for a tower from an aircraft viewpoint. The altitude limitations for an aircraft operating by a town makes a 250-foot tower a non-issue. Thanks for the notification. Signed sincerely, Jeff Reby. We received that on May 7th. That's it for correspondence.
Anyone speaking in favor?
Yes.
Everett Eckstein.
Basically the same thing I said before. They approached us, assured us that they were contacted by people that felt they needed the service. The service would be provided there, if not at our town hall, within eyesight of it. And we felt we would be doing a service to the people. And basically that's why we agreed. Any questions of myself? Thank you.
Okay, speak in opposition, Jeff Eggers.
I don't know if you want me to reread my previous statement. Would you like me to do that, or the only thing we're stating again is that we strongly ask that you consider not allowing this tower to be erected in this location, as it would have an adverse impact on the scenic view, building of a residential dwelling, or defect of the saleability of our properties in the future. And the reason why I say that is this tower is no different if, as far as the saleability, it's no different than if you live next to a cemetery, a water tower, or a school. It limits the buying pool that's already out there to sell a property. So, the other question I would have for Mr. Buildings is that what would happen if the tower did fall on our land? If it did not collapse inside of itself?
You'll have an opportunity to address that during the rebuttal, okay?
Questions for me? Thank you.
Okay, registered to speak in opposition, Susan Eggers. It says registered only in opposition, not to speak. Okay, that's fine. Need this? No. Just cup it on. This one is registered only in opposition, but not to speak, Nancy Jorgensen. And the next one is registered to speak, registered in opposition, but not to speak, Mary Eggers Demler. Registered in opposition, but do not speak, Paul P. Demler. Okay, I guess the next would be staff comments.
Another conditional use permit, you know, it's something that can be permitted if conditions are placed on it. This time it's a telecommunications tower in the agricultural zone. We have certainly seen a proliferation of these type of applications with the rise of cell phone use and particularly the smartphones. Once again, we need to look at where this is being proposed and see if there are conditions that can be placed on the application that will minimize the effects on the surrounding property owners. I don't think anyone believes that any of these applications have absolutely no effect on the surrounding property owners. There's always an effect when you do something on a neighboring property. It's just, you know, is this still more of a benefit than it is a hindrance to the public at large, and are there conditions that we can put on it that make it more in keeping with the surrounding properties? When the committee visited the property, they noted that the visibility was good at the driveway location and that traffic to the site would be relatively light. They also noted the facility should have its own uniform address number and that emergency contact information must be posted. That's it.
Okay, the applicant will have a chance at the rebuttal.
To answer the concern about if this tower would fall, I think we talked a little bit at length about the variance and providing a fall letter that would fall within that fall radius. The other thing is, there would be no liability. I mean, we are insured for that, any structural damage to that tower. So I don't know what else I need to.
Okay. Our next application is Paul Olson, Watoma, Wisconsin, Aurora Hunting Land, LLC, Pickett, Wisconsin, has made an application for conditional use in accordance with Section 58-454, parentheses 17, of the Share County Zoning Code to establish a grain storage operation with construction of one 48-foot diameter grain bin, one 90-foot diameter grain bin, and one 105-foot diameter grain bin, dryer, elevator, and associated equipment, and construction of a 20 by 24 office building in the AG General Ag Zone. Approximately 60.29 acre parcel of land known as Lot 1, Certified Survey Map number 3901, and the west 20 foot of Lot 2, Certified Survey Map number 3901, being part of the northwest 1/4, southwest 1/4, Section 17, Town of Aurora, on Cree Drive. Tell us what's happening.
I'm Paul Olson, Paul Olsen, This is the same plan that I was fortunate to appear here before to build over on Henry's land at the Four Corners. Because of, and Terry won the pool, Henry decided not to sell. We went to Plan B. We looked at this property earlier. Because of the overwhelming support once it was in the paper, we realized we needed more room to build and expand this plant down the road. This is strictly a grain operation. We are presently working on a plan for an agronomy center at our Roarville location, so there won't be any fertilizer, chemicals, or such at this site. This site gives us better access than Henry's site. We have our own dead-end road that we can accommodate vehicles more efficiently.
Okay, we have some questions for you again, like we did last time. So.
Could you describe your proposed business in more detail? I think you did that already. How many employees do you anticipate will be needed during the peak times of the year?
On the peak time and harvest, between 10 and 15.
What sort of traffic do you anticipating during peak times?
Peak times, our company typically runs 24 hours a day. We could average between 20 and 25 to 30 semis an hour during daylight, 10 to 15 in the evening.
Are advertising or directional signs being planned?
Yes, at the driveways.
What sort of traffic plan are you proposing? And will the traffic come off of dead-end town road?
Have you been on the site?
Yes.
The old, which is the old Highway 21 bypass, we're proposing to use the concrete section. When you go to the end towards the west, you'll know it comes onto asphalt. Just before it comes onto the asphalt will be the incoming driveway for traffic to come in. We're currently using the neighbor's driveway, and there'll be a outbound driveway on our property installed, and then that'll be all the outcoming. All traffic will go out on and off of Highway 49.
Have you talked to the DOT and the town board about this, and do they have any problems or concerns?
We've met with the town board. We have an agreement with the town board to maintain the road. We're going to clean out the southbound ditch and re-shoulder it, and we'll be fixing from where the concrete stops to the east, where the asphalt starts going on to Highway 49. That'll be widened out and taken care of.
Okay, the next question was, are you planning on any new driveways, and how many are planned and where will they be? But I think you've kind of told us that.
Right, we will need a variance from, and the town's going to give us a variance because it's a 75-foot variance between culverts, and that'll be our culvert and our neighbor's culvert will be closer than 75 feet.
Are you aware of the commercial building codes, stormwater permits, and all other requirements that will be needed to be met?
Yes, I am.
Will you need to do a lot of filling and grading to construct the proposed storage bins and other structures?
No, most of our bins are above ground tunnels. We aren't putting them in the ground, so there's not a lot of excavation. The pile of clay you saw out there has been piled because our excavator believes he's going to get a project in Ripon and needs clay for a pond liner. So.
Okay. How do you plan to deal with the stormwater runoff from all of the improvements?
Most of the property around that we have there will be continue to be cropped once that is, but it's going to be sloped to maintain the water flow like it has before it's on a crown piece of property.
What sort of sanitary facilities are you planning?
We're going to install a 2,000-gallon holding tank.
Are any other additions or buildings planned other than what you've indicated on the site plan?
Hopefully in the future we'll be adding more bins.
Do you anticipate any products that will need to be stored outside other than the grain?
No.
Do you plan on having any retail sales of products from this site?
No.
Are there any chemicals that will be stored in association with this operation, and if so, are you aware of permits and restrictions for storing them?
Depends on chemicals. You know, you typically have your maintenance chemicals, but there's no pesticides or herbicides or anything like that.
How do you plan to control the dust and chaff generated by both the traffic and the grain?
Our roads will be paved and swept, which eliminates a lot of the dust. In our unload system, we have designed one 1,000 bushel pit and one 500 bushel pit. Typically, when you dump grain from any hopper bottom or gravity box, if you have a big enough pit, you don't get a lot of bees wings and dust. You do get them from dump trucks and such because it's higher on. Our agreement with the town is if there is any dust problems, we'll address them. We don't have a building over our pit. We do have provisions for a air suction system to control the dust.
Will you need a new fire number?
Yes.
Has there been a recent survey of the property, and do you know where the lot lines are?
Yes, it's surveyed lot 1, and we know where the property, each corner is.
If an approval is granted, when do you anticipate starting construction?
9 o'clock tonight. Really soon. We're on a fast schedule to
Really
have it up
soon.
and running by the first week in September.
All right. Terry, you have any questions for Joe?
I got one more question. We drove in and we turned in the driveway where the gravel trucks were using it. Now, when you come in with the loaded grain trucks, are they gonna go all the way to the end of the lot, to the west end of the lot?
They won't go to the west end of the lot. They'll go down to the west where the concrete road stops. The driveway incoming will be just to the
Map
east.
you got here, it shows the driveway over here.
Yeah, there's currently a farm driveway there. That doesn't, we don't go back onto that
They're
asphalt.
going back in
Joe.
here somewhere.
Correct.
They'll come into the scale here,
Yes.
out through the bins,
Yep. Through the middle of the bins.
back up the scale and out over this side.
That's correct.
Okay, that's kind of what I had figured before.
It's a great traffic flow.
Okay. I guess we'll go on from here. Okay, we have some correspondence. We got letters.
We have one letter from the Town Board of Aurora. Again, it's addressed to me, Dear Terry. At a special board meeting last Thursday, the Aurora Board met with Paul Olson and his partners to review and discuss the proposed plans to establish a grain processing center on lands they have purchased from Aurora Hunting Land LLC. There were a number of the immediate neighbors to the proposed facility present to learn about what the partners plan to do at the site. At the meeting, a brief summary of the scope of the operation was presented by Paul Olson and Richard Moriarty, after which questions were fielded from neighbors as to what concerns they had with the operation. There were two concerns that neighbors had with the operation. The first was for dust and bee wings that often occur during the movement and drying process. Bob Happersett, who operates a used car facility at the Four Corners, related that his vehicles have become covered with the corn dust at various times during harvest, and that in recent years the facility, now owned and operated by ADM, would bring in a washing service to clean his vehicles as necessary. He hoped that the proposed new facility would also be willing to work with him. Comments from the partners indicated that their operation was employing the use of a new style equipment that used baffles and suction to keep dust on site, but if there was a problem, they would seek to resolve it. Board members went on record stating that if this became a problem, residents should come to the town board and that they would help resolve any issues. The second concern was for storage and use of chemicals for sale on premises. One neighbor was concerned about well contamination, and another was opposed to it becoming a chemical storage and spray facility. Board members noted that the conditional use did not indicate any part of the business would be devoted to ag chemicals, and that in discussions prior to the meeting, the partners had stated that there would be no chemical sales would be taking place at the new facility. A main concern for the town is the road that the new facility is to be situated on. Cree Avenue is a dead-end town road approximately a quarter mile in length. A large portion of the road is concrete pavement from what used to be State Highway 21. The pavement is 8 inches thick on clay and has deteriorated badly. Another portion has 10 inches of blacktop on clay. Highway Commissioner Tom Dahlke stated that the road will not hold up under proposed use. The applicants have agreed to make the necessary upgrades to the road and to put it in a condition to support their customers' needs at their expense, but have indicated that they want to only make necessary temporary improvements this year so that they can complete construction and be ready for harvest this year. They would also like to widen the entrance to the road at Highway 49. Commissioner Dalkey will look into what the state will potentially allow. A general agreement has been reached, but needs to be drafted and accepted by both parties. The board recommends approval of the conditional use with the following conditions. No chemicals on premise other than those needed for operation of grain terminal. And 2, road agreement with Town of Aurora has been drafted and approved and signed by both the town and the applicants. Note that the town attorney will have to draft a document describing what is expected of both parties. Due to terminology, this could take several days or weeks to get to a form approved by both parties. We are pleased to support this new business, bringing new jobs and additional tax base to our town. And that's signed sincerely, Jerry Luttrop, clerk for the Town of Aurora. And that's it for correspondence. We have one to speak in favor.
Speak in favor, Steve Krenz.
My name is Steve Krenz. I'm a partner in the LLC. My main concern is getting the grain unloaded and keeping the truck going. That's why I invested. I'm in favor.
We had one that checked too, so you can decide.
Your choice to speak or appear and speak for information is Richard Moriarty.
First, I want to thank the board for considering this. This is a great thing that I wouldn't have got in as a partner if I wasn't asked by some of our customers. We're in the farm equipment business in Berlin under R&M Motors. And lots of customers have said, I always, when you're talking, trying to sell them something, you ask them, what's the problem, what's this, where you're going with your grain? And this is what they asked for. So this is how this took place, I don't know yet. I mean, with the 5 of us getting in there, brothers in the refrigeration, and Steve's in the farming, and Paul's in the grain business, and another uncle of Paul's made an investor, and he's from the southern part of the state. So we want to please there's no such thing as you can please everybody, but we'd like to please as many as we can. And competition is good. There's many gas stations in towns, there's many banks in town, so it's another place, and we want to do it up right. We want to have the right, like we told the town board meeting, is we want it so that there ain't this bitching around. We want this thing to run right. And that's, if you guys got questions, or, whether it's tonight or whether it's 10 years from tonight, I want to make sure that we're doing the right thing so that we can keep going. We can't go without you guys and ladies. You just can't. And I want to thank the zoning too. I mean, there's a lot of things. And it's not, $500,000 either. So it'll be a great tax. Will taxes ever go down? Probably not any place, because things cost so much more to build nowadays, So, I mean, that's not really a legit thing, I don't think. Well, it'll bring the taxes down. Well, it probably won't. It might. But everything just costs too much. Nobody in this room is happy with what they're making. They want a little more all the time. So it's about the same thing with everything. So, again, thanks. And if you guys got questions, don't be afraid to holler.
Okay, thank you. Next one is to speak in opposition, Scott Fisher.
Scott Fisher. I live on the corner of Highway 49 and Cree Avenue. I guess one of our main concerns was the chemicals that Mr. Olson agreed that he would not be having on the property, which is great. If you roll a ball down that dead-end road, that ball will land directly in my yard. A big issue we have is with the dust. I've done a little bit of research on that. I've contacted my attorney. Of course, the dust falls under a nuisance law. Mr. Olson says the system he's going to be using has baffles, vacuum system, which is all fine and dandy. I'm not quite certain. I have received some information that a building over that pit may be an EPA regulation. If it is, I would suggest that that get put up immediately. Another issue we have is that road bed. When we met with the town of Aurora, it started out that they were going to maintain that road. By the end of the meeting, it came up that they were going to maintain that road for 5 years, and then the county was going to take that over, or the township was going to take that over. I do not see the taxpayers paying the burden for that road at any point in time for a private business. That road has been abandoned. The only reason that road was left open was because my father fought for it to keep it open. That was the only possible way to get to the field except going through the yard. That does not benefit me, anybody else in this room. I see no reason why that burden should fall on the township or the county whatsoever at all. And that's a big issue.
Next one is to appear and speak for information only, Shirley Frost.
Shirley Frost, F-R-O-S-T, and we live immediately to the west of where this is being built. And my husband has a few other points that he wants to make, but the only point I want to make is I do think that before they started the construction of this site that they should have notified the neighbors. They should have come to the town board and asked for the permissions that they were supposed to get, and they didn't. And we didn't find out about this until somebody called us anonymously, and the trucks have been constructing ever since. So I do think they should have done it the proper way and done the proper format before they started construction. I am not necessarily opposed to this business, other than the dust that I think we're going to get when the wind comes from the right way. And I do believe that we should have the construction of the roof over the bins, as Scott said. So that's all I have to say.
Next one is to appear and speak for information only, Richard Frost.
Richard Frost, just west of the location of the site that Paul Olson is working on. I just want to reiterate what Scott Fisher said about the road. And it was total surprise because when I left the town meeting, I says, what happened? All of a sudden, they were going to take charge of taking care of this road. All of a sudden, the county or the township says, after 5 years, we will accept the burden. I do not see why, again, why should we have to pay for this private road, more or less? We're not going to get anything out of it. We're going to be spending our taxpayer money. And I know they said they'd upkeep it for 5 years. And I've been in construction. And I know that you can keep it up for 5 years. And after that, it's done. Then the township is going to have to take over it. And then they're going to spend the big bucks. Otherwise, I'm all in favor of the business. As long as they meet the specifications, I'm one of them that's concerned about the water, my wells, that they do not get contaminated. I see Paul is taking care of that, which is fine. No pesticides, no chemicals. I appreciate that very much. And that's really all I have. In the dust situation, I don't know. I just heard now tonight this EPA thing with the building. I think maybe the board should really check into that to make sure that that's a specification. If it is or isn't, it should be part of their conditional use permit. And that is all I have. Thank you.
Staff comments. Yep.
I want to make sure I include everything. Okay. Another conditional use permit, obviously very similar to the first one heard by this committee. It's to allow drying and storage of grain products from many farmers rather than having each one have all the equipment and storage for themselves. Specifically listed as a conditional use. Like I said before, it's kind of like a cheese factory, a milk processing facility. You know, all of these are listed as conditional uses in our zoning code in the general agricultural zone. I want to address several things that were discussed. Variance for the driveway spacing standards are in the zoning code, so you might be back before the Board of Adjustments that met earlier. The town may say that they're in favor of it, but you might be back here. We should probably talk about that. And we don't measure between culverts. We measure center line of driveway to center line of driveway, so that might give you enough room to meet the spacing. I wanted to address that. Issues regarding the road, it's town property, and this committee really has no say in what the town and the property owner works out about the road. You know, they can certainly make a condition on there that the landowner should comply with all the requirements of the town, but it's not their road. It's not something that they can enforce anything. That's to be worked out between the landowner and who's using the road and the township. And as far as this committee being able to enforce EPA regulations, obviously they're not going to be able to do that. It is standard that when you look at approving something, you know, you let people know they have to comply with all the other permits that they need to get. You know, there may be a DNR stormwater permit that needs to be gotten. You know, that's going to be administered by DNR. If there's EPA regulations, they need to comply with those, but then that's going to be handled by the EPA. It's not for this committee to intervene between the EPA and the business. So even though if there is an approval, they would have to comply with those. It's not up to this committee to try to enforce those. So I just wanted to cover those items. When the committee visited the property, they noted that there will likely be concerns about dust from the road. It wasn't overly wide, so there might be some dust from the road shoulders as well as the grain operation. And that the road is in fairly poor condition now and would have to be upgraded to handle the traffic anticipated. Proper sanitaries will need to be provided. A holding tank is an option if the water usage is low enough in our code. And I have talked to Bill Toma about that, so I know that that's being looked at. No parking should be allowed on the state road again. You know, there should be enough parking area and truck waiting area off the state road so that we're not blocking that with either of the operations. And the operation would need a new address number. And that's it for my comments.
Okay, the applicant, if you have anything in rebuttal, come back. Okay, we'll move on to our next one. Next one is Daniel Yoder, Monroe and Luella May Smucker, landowners of Watoma, have made application for conditional use in accordance with section 58-454, parentheses 35, Washera County Zoning Code to establish a wholesale and retail bakery with proposed construction of a 36 by 26 foot building with a 4 by 14 open porch in the AG General Ag Zone. An approximate location of 15.86 acre parcel of land known as Lot 2 of Certified Survey Map number 4514 being part of northeast 1/4 of the northwest 1/4 of section 11, town of Richford and 11th Drive. Applicant, come on up. Tell us a little bit about what you want to do. Tell us who you are and where you live.
I'm Daniel Yoder. I actually don't live on the property, but we plan on moving there once we have the business going, if we get approved.
You want to explain the business a little bit?
We just want to have a general bakery, bake pies and breads, donuts and cakes and cookies and stuff like that.
Okay, and we have some committee questions for you.
I guess you've already described your proposed business. Will there be any employees outside of your immediate family?
Not right away, maybe in the future if we grow, you know, a little bit.
What sort of traffic do you think there will be at the peak times, and what sort of parking will you need?
It's really hard for me to say how much traffic I'll have because I really have no experience. I mean, I hope to have maybe 40 or 50 cars a day. That would probably be all.
You have a big enough parking area, you would think, to handle the parking?
Well, you know, if they would be spread out, I think I would have, you know, room for maybe 10 or 15 cars at a time.
What will the wholesale business entail?
We actually don't have any wholesale plans at this time. I just put it in there in case we do end up with a wholesale side of the business.
I'm sorry, will this operate at the same hours and days as the retail operation?
Yes.
Is an advertising sign planned?
Oh, yes, by the driveway.
How big is that going to be?
Actually, I really don't know. I haven't really made any plans for a sign. I just said it'd probably have it.
It can't be any bigger than 32 square feet. I think it'll be, that's a sheet of plywood.
It will be probably smaller than
Okay.
that.
Are you aware of the state building codes and other state requirements, and will they be met?
Yes.
How far above existing grade will the first floor elevation be, and how much filling and grading will be done?
I'm not sure. Actually, my brother is building it for me. He would probably be able to answer that question better than I. A foot.
What sort of sanitary facilities are you planning?
Are you going to have bathrooms in the building?
Yes. Just, I guess, whatever they ask of us, the zoning asks of us. Yeah, whatever's required.
It'll probably be up to the building inspector.
Are you aware of some of the restrictions that are placed on wastes that are generated from restaurants and bakeries being deposited into a septic system, and will you comply with those?
Yes.
Are there any other additions or buildings planned other than what you've indicated on the site plan?
No.
Are you planning a new driveway?
Oh, we're just planning to upgrade the driveway that is there to meet whatever we need.
Do you need a new fire number?
I'm not sure.
Sometimes you might want one because it's going to help people
I
get to
figured
the
we
right
probably would if-
driveway. You know what I mean? They're not going to be driving in the house because they're going to know what the fire number is in your ads.
But I had actually planned we probably would if.
And delivery trucks, and you might get mail too for the business as opposed to something else.
Has there been a recent survey?
Not really recently, no.
Do you know where your lot lines are?
Oh, yes.
If an approval is granted, when would you start your operation?
Probably around the middle of August, 1st of September.
And then the last and most important question, are you going to have really good jelly donuts?
I'm hoping so.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you can take a seat. We'll back to you. Any correspondence?
Yes, we have a letter from the town of Richford to the Washera County Board, Zoning Board. Town Board of the Town of Richford expressed their support of a bakery to be constructed by Daniel and Marilyn Yoder called MD's Delights. The structure will be erected on the corner of 11th Drive and Cottonville Avenue. We look forward to the opening of MD's Delights within our town and to the Zoning Board's approval as well. Please contact Chair Robert Wadle at his phone number listed should you have any questions. Thank you for your time, and that signed sincerely Julia Staler, Clerk, Town Board of Richford. We also have a letter from Kirshner's Gas Service regarding the Daniel Yoder, Monroe, and Luella Schmucker project in the town of Richford, to whom it may concern. The above property has an existing septic system on the home. An inspection was done on the existing septic system for the home and was found to be in good working order. The drain field has no evidence of failure as of the time of the inspection. The septic tank is of concrete construction with concrete baffles and was in good working order as of the time of the inspection. The liquid level was at the correct level in the septic tank. The owner of the new bakery is working with us on the interior and exterior plumbing for the new bakery. If the application is approved, we will want to discuss options with planning and zoning. We wish the owners of the bakery the best in their new venture, and that's signed sincerely, Mark Kirshner. And that's it for correspondence.
You want to speak in favor?
Yep, we have one.
Speak in favor, we have Floyd Yoder.
Hi, my name is Floyd Yoder. He's going to be a new neighbor. I'm just wishing him good luck, and I'm for it.
Next, staff comments.
This conditional use application falls in with a lot of others that are generally considered home-based businesses. These are small family-run operations that are established near the home. Obviously, he doesn't live there yet, but he's planning on moving there. And that's where people can make a living doing something that is not obnoxious to their neighbors and is in keeping with the rural atmosphere. The call for these to be able to be established came out of the land use planning process that the county went through several years ago. It seemed like almost every town kind of recognized that these small operations could be in keeping with the neighborhood and landscape and provide additional employment opportunities in our rural area. So almost every township promoted the permission, through zoning laws of these home-based businesses. I also wanted to point out, you were probably wondering why we had information on the septic system for the home. And when someone puts in a new septic system, we make sure all the other septic systems on that property are up to code so that we don't have a problem. So that was why Kirshner's Gas Service provided some information on that, and they are working on the septic system for the new building, should it be approved. When the committee visited the property, they noted that there is adequate room for parking. Visibility is good at the driveway location. The bakery probably should have a separate address number for the benefit that I stated before. And that's it.
The applicant will have a chance to rebuttal if you'd like. If not, okay, and we'll move on. Our last one is a zone change for Eugene and Patricia Reyes. Wautoma made application zone change in accordance with section 58-131 through 138 and 58-452 parentheses 1 of the Washare County zoning code from AG5 general agricultural less than a 5-acre minimum to AG2 general agricultural 2-acre minimum for the purpose of creating one lot being approximately 2.66 acres in size. The location is approximate 2.66 acre portion of a 40-acre parcel of land being northeast 1/4 of the southeast 1/4, section 2, Town of Deerfield, N 4663 12th Avenue. Is the applicant here? Come on up. What's your name and tell us the story.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eugene Rice. My wife Pat and I own a 160-acre farm in Deerfield Township. We purchased it in 1962 from her parents. They bought it from the original homesteader in 1950 and farmed it until 60. And my wife's father was killed in a tragic car accident. My mother-in-law decided to sell the property, and we bought it. It was a run-down, beat-up pickle farm of 160 acres. My wife and I have spent the last 50 years cleaning up the property. There were numerous dump sites, car tires, batteries, farm machinery all over the farm. That's all gone. The Mexican cottages and trailers and that sort of thing all around the perimeter of the house is gone. We've literally planted thousands of trees on the property over a period of time. We've created trails and roads through the system. In 1960, Congressman Henry Royce, in the mid-60s, stopped to see us and asked if it would be all right if they would bring the Ice Age hiking trail through our property. We graciously agreed to that, so the Ice Age trail comes through the middle of our property, and we meet very nice hikers throughout the year that stop and visit us at our house. As we planted these trees and they matured, we didn't know what to do with them, so we entered a contract with the Wisconsin DNR to help us manage the timber, what to do with it. And they wrote a management plan for us for our 160 acres that includes the 40 that our house sits on. So as my wife and I graciously age, we think we are, we think of the day when someday we might have to sell the property that our house sits on and retain the farm. And so we applied for a zone change that we might take the original 3 acres out of that 40 that the DNR has not taxed us for these years. It's regular tax, and make that a separate parcel. So if and someday We couldn't physically take care of our property anymore. We could sell that 3 acres and keep the rest of the farm in the MFL program. And that's what we're seeking the board's approval of tonight. If we could, the town of Deerfield has accepted our proposal. They don't see any problem with it, and the Wisconsin DNR also accepted it. And I guess it's up to the county board, your decision tonight, to whatever you feel is necessary. Do you have any questions?
Okay, we do have committee questions for you.
Yes, I'm going to be asking you some questions you answered already, but just for the record, can you explain why you want to split off the buildings from the rest of the parcel?
Well, it would be the house and the building. If someday we couldn't physically maintain the property anymore, we would sell the house and the building surrounding it, that 3 acres, and keep the rest of the property in the family, the farm, keep the farm in the family that's in the MFL now.
It appears that you had a new septic system put in back in 2005, and it was a conventional system, correct?
That's correct.
Are you planning on dividing the property any further?
No, we're not.
Are there other similar lots of this size in the area?
Well, I'm not quite sure about that. I've got a map that shows some ag residential AR. There's AR3 in our area, AG10. I guess there is some split ups of some agricultural land.
Have you reviewed this proposal with the town board and their planning commission?
Yes, we've gone through that process, and Tom Whaley, and they voted on it, and their board had a meeting on it, and they approved it.
Okay, the next question is, they're okay with the 2 acre minimum, which you said they was. You are aware of that this is necessary because our zoning laws require that we look at the net acreage, exclusive of road right-of-ways and easements.
Yes.
Are you aware of the surveying requirements?
Yes.
Have you considered other options such as a minimum lot size of 5 acres or leaving the property intact as a 40 with the buildings out of the MFL as you have done since joining the program?
Well, if we decided to go 5 acres, we would have to take the whole 40 out of the MFL and then pay our back taxes on that 40 for the last 13 years that it's been involved in the program.
Have you checked with the DNR Forester, and will this comply with all requirements of the MFL?
I just talked to her 2 days ago, and they do comply.
If an approval is granted, when would the certified survey map be done?
The certified survey map has been done already?
What I believe what it is when would this be split up?
He has done the certified survey map already, and then it would just be a matter of getting the approvals, and then we could record it. Do the approval and recording.
That's all the questions I have.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Okay, you can take a seat.
Thank you.
Any correspondence?
We have one letter from the town chairman written to the Waushara County Zoning Commission regarding Eugene Rice reclassification. This matter has been considered and passed by our planning commission. It was then passed by our town board by a 3-0 vote. This was a unique situation because this was set aside before our smart growth plan was written. It was done when his MFL plan was written and approved. And that's signed sincerely, Thomas Whaley, town chairman. That's it for correspondence, and no one registered to speak on this application.
Staff comments.
This is a little bit different, so I'm going to take your time and explain a little bit about zone changes. A zone change should be considered a more permanent change to the property. It doesn't change the overlying zone as far as AG or general agricultural, but in this case, it will alter the minimum lot size that can be created. Right now, this property is zoned AG, general agricultural -5, which means a parcel must have a minimum of 5 acres before it could be created. This was asked for by the town board after they went through their land use planning process, and generally was determined to be necessary to keep rural areas more rural by having a larger minimum lot size on which a landowner could build a home or develop their property. In other words, I heard a lot of people said it kind of kept the subdivisions out of the country. It left the country more country and didn't seem like you had subdivisions everywhere. Of course, one size does not fit all, and that's what the town board and the zoning committee are faced with here. In this particular case, because of the forest management of the property owner, a smaller lot size for the buildings is being asked for. As far as the process goes, because of its permanency, a zone change must pass 3 different boards. First is the public hearing review, and then the consideration by the Planning and Zoning Committee. Then the application goes to the full county board for its review, and then finally it goes back to the town board for their review. And the application must be approved at all 3 locations, or the change does not become final. So this is the first step in the process. It's going to take a little longer if it were to be approved and passed along. When the committee visited the property, they noted that the parcel split should not present any problems as long as the town is in favor of the minimum lot size change. And that's it for my comments.
Does the applicant have anything? Back.
Do you want to add anything, or?
Have you got any
Anything
more?
else you want to add or ask?
Anything else you have to say concerning this?
No, I guess not. I guess we're trying to follow the rules and regulations, whatever you all want us to do, and we've invested in a survey and in the proceedings tonight, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll go on to our business meeting.
Hang on a
Roll
minute.
call, you got that?
Hang on a minute. Too much sheet work tonight. Yeah, I got roll.
Roll call, I think.